Anything on it. Summit and Destiny have met 7 times before. Tonight is number 8.
And the Tennessee Volunteers are the SEC Tournament champions. It's been a long time coming. The last time Tennessee won this tournament was in 1979, but they've got another trophy to put in the trophy case at Thompson Bowling Arena.
The 2023 SEC champions, the Tennessee Volunteers.
Hit high in the air into left field. Stevenson circling in front of the fence into foul ground. He goes into the corner, makes the catch, and that's the ball game.
And the Volunteers will hold the trophy.
How much fun is this, man? God, I love it. High fly, deep right, and Tennessee walks it off.
The 2-2 to Denton.
Well hit, deep left field, it is gone!
For the win for the Volunteers. From 40. On the way, a knuckleball. He got it!
How much fun is this?
Man, Rocky Top, this is college football at its absolute best.
This is college athletics at its absolute best. Welcome into the Vol Fanatic Show, whether you're listening on YouTube or Facebook. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to like the channel, subscribe, follow, do all the things that you need to do to be on board as we are gearing up for football season. I'm your boy, Skylar, my co-host, Michael. How we doing? You got to swap your name to – I don't know how to swap both of our names, but you got to swap your name at some point. But, yes, Michael.
I will swap it, man. Man, we're doing pretty good today. Man, we are just under 3 weeks until it is football time in Tennessee. Exciting times. Skylar, before we get into the main part of our show, I do want to start off on a little serious note. Both of us, we went to Richland. You graduated from there. I graduated from Cornersville. Want to send out prayers to family and friends there at Richland, as there was a tragic loss, a 10-year-old boy this past week in an ATV accident. So really want to send out prayers to all of those that are affected by that loss. But just wanted to do that at the top of the show before we get into things.
And it's a lot of folks, man. They were some great people. Still are, but just unfortunate, what happened. We have a small community, right? So you've seen the shares going out from Richland High School, and then it just kind of branched off from there. And when you realize the whole county, it seemed like, was sharing that post around, you knew it was something serious. So I'm glad you brought that up. That is very much top of mind, and we feel it all the way out here in East Tennessee. Great people, and I'm wishing them a lot of prayer and healing, because it's going to be a long time to get over this one. I know it, and we extremely feel for that family. So. Yeah,
absolutely. But want to take care of that first before we got.
Yeah, for sure. But let's try to turn it a little bit. Try to move along, and let's get on to our show presenting sponsor, and that is Chris Smith Insurance. As a homeowner, Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he decided to start an agency of his own, where instead of feeling like a big company is fighting against you, you'll know that your agent is fighting for you. All insurance is not equal. Trust the Chris Smith Insurance today. Give them a call at 865-272-3387. Guys, policies are going up left and right. This guy right here can get you the best policy for your situation, because as we all know, insurance has a niche, right? So depending on what your age range is or what you own, Chris Smith can find the best deal for you at the most coverage and whatnot. And so, guys, be sure to reach out to him. If you like his style, if you like his vibe, see if he can get you a quote. I know he can, and he'd love to do that. So thank you, Chris, for your support. And almost a year now, I think, of support from Chris Smith, and we really do appreciate it. And I think we got a big show, right? So we're talking wide receivers, which is a fascinating group to talk about, as they just wrapped up a scrimmage on Friday. Got a lot of intel from that scrimmage. And then we're talking preseason previews for Ole Miss and Texas. We're kind of into the thick of it, right? I mean, we're at the top of the cream of the crop, right?
We're getting on up there. And we were going to have Skeeter on from the Woods Water Mizzou podcast today. Unfortunately, a little bit of scheduling issues, weren't able to make it work, but we are planning on having Skeeter on next week with us to do a Mizzou preview. But yeah, we're doing Ole Miss and we're doing Texas. But before we get into all that, because our first segment will be wide receivers, I'm going to go ahead and give you our segment one sponsor, which is Optimal Asbestos Services, your trusted environmental consulting firm in Knoxville, Tennessee. State licensed and insured, we specialize in asbestos air quality management for commercial buildings and homes. Contact Jeff Mole at 865-223-3297 or on the web at optimalasbestosservices.com. And we've already got some guys tuning in. Robert is back with us, man.
He says, hey, guys, he believes football is less than 3 weeks away, and your belief would be true, brother. It's been a long 6 months. Has it, though?
Well, we've had some good things happen.
We've had some great
kept it from being.
Has it been that long, Robert? Robert, I know maybe you guys are only here for football, and that's okay. We understand, but it's actually been one of the shortest off seasons in Tennessee history, actually, considering that baseball won their first ever World Series championship. Honestly, Justin comes in here. He's really trying to pick our nose right here. Hook 'em horns. All right, thank you.
That's the only way to do it.
All right. No, we appreciate you, Justin, for tuning in, man. Without further ado, I kind of want to talk a little bit about this wide receiver room, man. We got a couple key. We actually have more than 2 returning starters. We have Dante Thornton, who I think is going to be playing a little bit. But we do have a lot of unknowns as far as behind the big 3 or 4. And when I say 3 or 4, I'm talking obviously Squirrel White, Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy, I think, is going to be coming back with a vengeance. You got to think about that injury he suffered at South Carolina. Gruesome injury, but he is 100% healthy, ready to rock and roll. The coaches have kind of had to hold him back in fall camp, which he's not been happy about. But you got guys like Squirrel White for sure, who I kind of compare him as our little Tyreek Hill. Very, very short, speedy guy who loves to get out in open space. You got guys like Dante Thornton, who I think in year 2 from the transfer from Oregon at least, that guy's going to have a lot to prove, especially in a stacked room where he's going to have to prove it. Because if not, we're going to go right to the next man. We're going to talk about that. And then also, speaking of transfers, we got a guy named Chris Brazel from Tulane. That kid is turning heads in fall camp. So, I mean, we got just 4 guys right there off the cusp. We're going to get into a little bit of depth. We got a lot of key returners that played a lot last year due to, animosity, whatever you want to call it. Injuries happen. You got to get out there. We got some key returners. We also have some fresh new faces in the building that I do think could find their way on the field in year 1. And I tell you what, wide receiver group is going to be massive this year. I think you're going to see a big things from the Kelsey Pope-led group. And, Michael, who do you want to start with? Honestly, I kind of went through a bunch of names right there, but who's the first one you kind of want to see do big things this year?
Well, let's start with Brew McCoy because, coming into the season, he is arguably has the highest draft stock of any wide receiver on Tennessee's roster and has had that since he first came onto campus from USC. You mentioned he tragically had his season cut short last year with the injury at South Carolina, and he's still dealing with the effects of that, trying to come back. But you mentioned they're slowly working him back in. Do you think that they're trying to work him to where he is completely 100% by the NC State game or maybe the Oklahoma game?
If we're talking Brew here, I think he's already healthy. I think it's just one of those things where you got to keep him in bubble wrap. And I think you'll see action from Brew McCoy in game 1, actually. I do.
Oh, I agree with that. I just feel like, do you think maybe they try to keep him from going that full 100% until maybe the NC State or the Oklahoma game?
I mean, yeah, but NC State, they wouldn't wait till Oklahoma, especially with the way his offseason's gone this year. But he needs to get hit in that first game against Chattanooga. Who do we play in the first game?
Yeah, UT Chattanooga.
Yeah. So I do think he needs to get hit. Now, I'm not saying he needs to play 4 quarters, but, because I believe, who was it? Cedric Tillman, who tried to play 4 quarters against Austin Peay or somebody like that.
Akron.
It might have been UT Martin. Akron, thank you. And, gets rolled up on in the ankle when he jumps up for a ball. So, I mean, stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's football, injuries happen, but definitely want to avoid it with all costs. But you practice, you can practice hard as you want. There's nothing quite like being under the lights. And I think Brew McCoy is going to be ready to go for game 1.
Yeah, and Brew McCoy is a guy, you don't expect him to just run downfield for a lot of stuff because he's that power guy like Cedric Tillman is. You're going to throw a little 5-yard hitch route to him and let him use his strength to get upfield.
Well, you say that. I seen a clip from practice yesterday, and Brew looks like he has gained some speed. I think he shed off a little bit of weight, and the guy looks like he's going to be that one, outside guy for us this year, which he needs to be. I want him to keep the physicality, though. There's nothing that gives me the juice than when he lowered his shoulder against, I think it was Florida, even though he lost the game. But he caught the ball and just completely ran over a defender like Hendon Hooker did this last weekend, which we're going to talk about. I want him to keep that aggression. But he did lose some weight. At least it looks like. I do expect big things. He did change his number. Several wide receivers did. Brew McCoy's one of them. He will no longer be number 15. He will be number 5. So just be on the lookout for that. But, yeah, Brew McCoy, I'm expecting big things. And, honestly, due to the depth of this room, I don't know if Brew McCoy is going to play 100% of the snaps anyways. Nothing to take away from Brew, but I just think that's the way it is.
I don't think anybody is going to play 100% of the snaps this year. I think because of that depth and the talent in that room, granted, some of it is unproven right now, you're going to have to rotate guys in and out. Now, is it going to be every single series? No. Is it going to be every single play? No. But every couple of series, you're going to have guys rotate in and out, and maybe a little bit of situation-based stuff too. But another guy that I want to touch on, you mentioned him as well, Squirrel White. I mean, he's obviously going into this year going to be your starting slot receiver. He's the returning or he led the team in receiving yards last year, as any slot receiver in the Josh Heupel offense is probably going to do, just because of the way that they use them. They draw things up for them.
That's the way it works in my dynasty. So, I mean, whoever's lined up in the slot, I mean, they're getting open. It's kind of cool the way it works out for him that way. But, I mean, I think Squirrel White is just such a versatile guy. I mean, you can get him out in space, especially the way they do the quick screens, which I know as a fan, once they run about the 7th one in the first quarter, you're like, hey, like this is getting kind of old. But the idea there is to get them out in space and get them one-on-one, right? If you've got 2 guys lined up on your dual receivers that are on the freaking sideline, throw it to the one guy, and you hope that your wide receiver makes a block, and now it's just one-on-one Squirrel White versus the other guy. And if I'm Heupel, and he does this all the time, I take Squirrel White all day long and get 7-8 yards of play. And so that's the way they play it out there. Getting Squirrel White in space is the best thing you can do, especially like those crossing routes, the slants. If we can hit a slant this year with Squirrel White, my goodness, gone forever. Aaron Hernandez, I'm just serious. Like, Robert comes in from YouTube. He says, question, are you guys going back to doing live podcasts at this time, or will it be fluctuating throughout the football season? Don't want to miss your live feeds. That's a great question. So it'll probably, during the season, go back to this time. Now, we'll kind of talk. We'll talk it out. But I do think we like this time slot. It's just during the year or during the off season. We were doing it kind of later in the afternoon so that we don't have to necessarily miss any plans that we made for the family or anything like that. So we appreciate you guys understanding that and still sticking with us. But no, I think once we get back into the swing of things, your boy going to be home all the time because it's football season. We don't make plans. My best friend decided to have a wedding. God, dude. My best friend decided to have a wedding on the Kentucky week, and I kind of told him he's going to need to find a new best man. And, I'm joking. I will be going to the wedding. He's done a lot for me in the past, and we're boys. We go way back. So, but no, it's just one of those things where even Justin comes in. He says, expecting big things from Squirrel. But no, back to you, Robert. Yeah, we are going to try to go live 2:00 Eastern time once season kicks off. And today it just worked out best for us this way anyways, because I think we're about to head to the beach.
Yeah. The time might move just a little bit. Like Skylar said, we'll talk about it. But, yes, it is going to be an early afternoon time slot that we're going to be going live during the season.
We didn't even touch on one. I just looked. We hit over 300 subs on YouTube over the week, thanks to you guys. So keep it up. We're pushing to 500 now. I appreciate you guys. This is so cool. I mean, within year one, and we're almost averaging a sub a day, dude. And I'll take that. Like that is we didn't have any expectations on this show. We just like to come on here and talk ball, and that's how we're gonna keep it. Robert gives us the thumbs up, and Robert's been here since day one. He was probably like literally our second subscriber. That wasn't me. So, like,
you're probably he was probably the first one that wasn't family.
Exactly.
That gave us a subscribe. So
100%. But no, Squirrel White, get him out in space. And I think we're going to have another guy kind of like that. And I think it's Chris Brazzell. Chris Brazzell is body type, one of the biggest wide receivers we have on the team. Him and Dante Thornton actually are both listed at 6'5". I don't know if I believe that, but they're both listed at 6'5". But the thing about Chris Brazzell, almost like Dante Thornton, you can still line them up in the slot. Like they are still quick enough to be there. And I'm seeing a lot of connections from Nico to Chris Brazzell that I think is going to be special. And the kid seems to catch with his hands very well. Whether it's back shoulder, over the top, in stride, the guy makes catches and he never uses his chest to do it. Excites me because so many times we've seen other wide receivers try to, cradle the ball and things happen. We don't secure the catch, whatever. Chris Brazzell's not that guy. He catches with his hands and he catches in traffic from what I'm seeing in camp. I think he's going to be a dangerous weapon for Nico.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you could put him back and forth between the outside and the slot. And you mentioned the same thing about Dante Thornton, but here's the thing. We noticed last year that Dante Thornton, he came on towards the end of the year whenever he started playing a little bit more on the outside after Bru's injury. So I wonder if that's going to be one of the places or the main place that we see him, or if we maybe they worked with him some in the slot over the off season and got him a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, Chris Brazzell was a huge pickup in the portal for Kelsey Pope's wide receiver room here.
Well, one thing I've been hearing a lot here in the last couple of weeks is, you got all these weapons. I mean, we've got 4 wide receivers, probably 5 or 6 actually. So I don't want to short out anybody by any means, but you've got so many wide receiver weapons. Are you just going to ditch the tight end and play with 4 wide receivers? And I can tell you right now, that's a no. That is an absolute no. This offense strives with the tight end just like it strives with the running back. And I'm hearing some things right now. I know this is about wide receivers, but I just want this to be out there. We're only going to be playing 3 wide receivers at a time, more than likely, unless we lose a running back. We're not taking the tight end off the field. We've got some tight end weapons that we'll talk about. I think we've already talked about them, honestly. Ethan Davis, for one. I think he's going to be a dog. But Matt Stone comes in on YouTube. Brazzell's dad was an NFL wide receiver. He's been well coached, to say the least. Exactly. And I think that's what you're seeing in camp. I mean, y'all guys, it's not exclusive content. Y'all go and follow these pages on Instagram. That's what we do. Like I said, we're fans. We're not insiders. But all these highlights of Chris Brazzell hauling in these catches, I mean, it's all with his hands. He's catching in traffic. He's catching it behind the shoulder. A lot of times I'm like, that's not a good pass. But, he still hauls it in, and it looks great, and he makes it look good. So, Chris Brazzell. Dante Thornton, let's talk about him.
Yep.
Second-year transfer from Oregon. I would say he underperformed majorly, but I think it's because we're tainted by the Florida game, I think, where he dropped 7, but he did make the one good catch in the seam route that he had down the middle. He did come around. I think Missouri game was about to be his, welcome to Tennessee game, and then unfortunately twisted his ankle, broke it in the end zone when he caught the ball. Surprisingly still held on to the ball when he rode up on his ankle. I mean, that's one of those things where usually you let go. I mean, it's just the pain is insufferable. But I feel like Dante Thornton, especially with the loaded room this year, I'm expecting a lot of big things from him. I don't know if that's really statistical. If I'm saying hey, I'm expecting 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. I don't know if it's like that, but more so being a leader of the group. I mean, we're talking about Dante Thornton being, I believe he's a senior this year. And, he's one of the older guys in the group, not named Bru McCoy. I want to see him play like it. And but what about you? I mean, I think the talent's there. I think it's been there. I think maybe last year he just didn't really know his place yet.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I felt like they tried to force him a little bit into that slot position because you had the outside receivers pretty much taken care of. You had Ramel Keaton and you had Bru McCoy out there beginning of the season as your outside wide receivers. Squirrel in the slot there, and Dante was going to be your other guy to put in at the slot whenever Squirrel wasn't in the game. And he just wasn't comfortable in that position. I don't know if it was the offense itself, if it was the position itself, but when they started putting him on the outside after Bru's injury, you mentioned that Missouri game, I'm with you. I think that was about to be his coming out party until the unfortunate ankle injury in the end zone. So I think another off season of getting used to the offense, maybe getting used to the position group, whether it be outside or slot. I do think that we're going to see big things from Dante Thornton this year.
Absolutely, guys. I'm going to remind you guys, thank y'all for tuning in. We got several people watching on the YouTube. Do me a favor. Let's get that thing to 10 likes. We're at 4 right now. I think we can get it up to 10, but we appreciate you watching. I'm going to propose a question to the people. Who's the wide receiver that you're looking forward to the most to have just the bigger year? Like maybe it could be like a story, maybe not statistically, but maybe like that comeback year. I mean, because Brew, obviously Dante Thornton both injured last year. Did they make that comeback? Who's the one person that you want to see just succeed, right? Make it to the NFL draft even and be a high pick, whatever it is. Who is that one guy that really moves the needle for you in the wide receiver room? And while y'all come up with those answers, I kind of want to. Oh, Robert comes in. He says that catch in the end zone at Mizzou was impressive. The only highlight of that game for the Vols.
You're not wrong.
I do think that was the only highlight. Wow, that running back from Missouri was insane, bro. That was crazy. I don't even want to think about it. The next group, I guess I would say, because, I mean, let's be honest. Is that not the top 4 that you're thinking that's in this room right now? Just off the cuff, like top 4 on the depth chart. Is that not the 4 guys? Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, Dante Thornton, Chris Brazzell?
Yeah, I would say probably so.
I think it's close. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to hit you with a curveball because this is probably not the next name you're thinking of. But somebody I've heard a lot, especially coming out of Scrimmage Friday.
Can I take a guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it Chaz Nimrod?
No. It's Nathan Leacock.
Nathan Leacock. Okay.
Talking about making the most of his opportunities. That kid I'm hearing great things about because he's staying healthy. He's getting the reps in. You know, a lot of these guys, and I'm not crapping on Brew McCoy or anything like that. He's just being rested. And trust me, if it was Brew's decision, he'd be out on the field. I can promise you that. But you got other guys that, unfortunately, like Mike Matthews has not been able to be a full participant, even though he's a 5-star incoming freshman. I think he's got this talent to be on the field in year 100%. We're going to talk about that. But Nathan Leacock's been a guy that's kind of stayed the course, making some plays, doing his job, and it's turning some heads. And I think Nathan Leacock could be one of those guys that you really wouldn't think about coming into the year. Honestly, you'd probably think about him hitting the portal at the beginning of fall camp. But no, I think he is actually, being resilient, looking at the competition, facing it head on, and I think he's doing some great things in camp this year.
Yeah, I hadn't heard which I've heard some different things than you have. I hadn't heard as much from Laycock coming into this year, but he's one of those that he's got a lot of potential. It's just with those guys in front of him, how much time is he going to see on the field? But I do think that when he gets out on the field, he's definitely going to make the most of his opportunities, just like he has in practice so far.
Well, and that's what another guy, if you will, and kind of in the same category is Caleb Webb. Caleb Webb is a guy that I just haven't heard a lot of this year. And you think about the room and how stacked it is, does he get buried? It's very possible. He was a very big depth piece for us last year, obviously due to the turnover in the room and obviously the injuries. We had to have him. But that could be a guy where he sees his role actually decrease from year 2 to year 3 in this system. How do they balance it, right? How does the coaching staff, Kelsey Pope, Josh Heupel, how do they balance that? Obviously you got one of the more talented wide receiver rooms you've had since you've been there. But then you have some guys that are a little bit older, but just maybe a little bit less talented. I mean, how do you reward them, or do you just kind of have to be upfront about it? Like, hey, I'm playing my best guys, whoever it is, step up to the plate, because I feel like that's the mentality you got to have.
Yeah, that's absolutely the mentality that you have to have, because if you become one of those coaches or a coaching staff that is just like, look, I know you've been here, you've put in your time, so yeah, I'll give you a little bit of time on the field, even though maybe you hadn't earned it, then you're going to lose that respect from some of your other guys that have earned that playing time on the field. So you've got to be upfront with them about it. And if the guys aren't happy with it, then either they're eventually going to transfer or they're going to work that much harder to try to get themselves onto the field.
100%. Matt Stone comes in YouTube. Thank you for watching. We're up to 5 likes on YouTube. We got to get that thing up to 10. He said, got to go with Brew for the comeback year myself. He might just be my favorite player. I agree. Rooting for him to have a killer year and would be what he would love to see him get drafted pretty high. And I agree with that 100%. Brew, think about what he's been through from Texas to USC, back to Tennessee, and now he's having to deal with injury. I mean, the dude's in like his 8th season. I'm joking. I don't think it's that much. But, I mean, I would love nothing more than for him to not necessarily have a breakout year because, I mean, the dude's had some crazy seasons. But I would love for him to just be that alpha dog, number 1 wide receiver on the outside. He's got the size to be an NFL draft pick, let's be honest. But now I want him to kind of back it up with some stats to kind of help with that argument so that he can be asserted 3rd-round draft pick or higher. You feel me?
Yeah, I agree because, we all felt like after the season he had back in 2022 that he was going to take that step forward last year.
That Florida drive right before the half when he caught that touchdown pass when Hendon Hooker rolled out.
Yeah.
He jumped so many spots in my favorite player. I mean, it was just that dog in him, right? I mean, it was awesome.
Well, not to mention the catch against Alabama in traffic that
Exactly.
put Tennessee in the field goal range. I mean, that was just a grown man going up, grabbing it, making sure nobody else got it. It wasn't anything special about it. He was just he was asserting his dominance out there to make that catch and make sure that Tennessee was put into position to win that game. But then, the injury happened last year. He wasn't able, and he was having a good season at that point.
Oh, yeah.
But, I feel like this year it's definitely going to be a good year for Brew in one way or another. But a guy that I think might be going a little bit under the radar is a guy that I guessed a minute ago, Chaz Nimrod.
I agree.
He has put on over the offseason about 20 to 30 pounds in muscle, as well as getting a little bit quicker. He's been really impressing during the practices and during the scrimmages and stuff like that. But he's another guy that is he going to be able to see the field as much because of what is in front of him?
Exactly. I mean, and short answer is no, he's not going to see the field as much. But then long answer, actually, he might see the field as much just because I feel like this coaching staff is doing a lot better than the first year. I mean, honestly, I think the staff had to do it because of just who they had in the room. You remember that first year? It was the 3 wide receivers. And that was absolutely it. You had no idea who else was in the room. You literally just played with Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, and Ramel Keaton, Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy, I think, came a little later. But I mean,
it was Javonte Payton.
Javonte Payton, thank you. Yes, Mississippi State transfer, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
Did Velus Jones play back then? I
Yeah.
can't remember.
So Jalen Hyatt started off on the field a little bit that year, and then Velus Jones
kind of took over because Jalen Hyatt wasn't really doing it for him.
He was struggling. I think he got hurt.
Maybe. So, yeah, I mean, but either way, I mean, we're talking 3, maybe 4 as a flex, I guess.
Yep.
You didn't know who else was in the room, period. And I do feel like last year they did a little bit better. Now they had to because of injuries, but at least rotating the guys. When you had to change a running back, maybe change a wide receiver as well. Something like that. This year, I think you're actually going to see a lot more wide receivers play, but you're probably going to stick to 4 or 5. I don't think you're really going to stretch it to 6 or 7 and meaningful downs in a big game, if that makes sense. So, because again, the identity of this offense is to never sub. If they can roll every 10, 15 seconds, snap that ball, that's how they're going to do it. Unfortunately, sometimes they run the ball 5 straight times because it's working, and the running back is just absolutely gassed and can't pass pro. And then at that point, you really got to sub them out. Robert tunes in, says, for me, Chris Brazzell. He had great stats at Tulane, 45 receptions, 722 yards, 5 touchdowns. I hope you're right because I just named that on the podcast for everybody listening. I'm taking this straight from his comment. Before coming to the Vols, if he stays healthy, going to have a great year, very talented. I agree. And I think we're all seeing that. I think everybody's seeing that. It's kind of funny. I kind of look at the people that don't talk to the media as much because I feel like not necessarily they're more important or anything, but I feel like that's because they're just locked in, ready to roll, and I think that's a sign for me that Chris Brazzell is one of those dudes. But yeah, I think, I knew that was going to be coming at some point. My mom tunes in and praying for her. She's traveling with this hurricane and stuff, but she's in here. She says, "Brew." Hey, Michael, who's booing in the chat?
Who's booing in the chat?
Yeah, who's booing in the chat? I always get that question when I'm in a game. Like, why do we boo when Brew catches the ball? I mean,
here's a funny thing. We actually are going to be hearing some boos at the stadium this year because we got Boo Carter on the team.
That's especially if he makes some good tackles or something. That is crazy, man. Brew and boo and not a boo. No, exactly. Realize how many times we have to explain that to people, man. It's crazy, and we probably have to do it again this year. So. But no, I like that pick, Chaz Nimrod. I am expecting. So Chaz Nimrod and Nathan Leacock, both redshirt freshmen. Yep. Second year in the program, really, really looking at this competition. And I think they're learning a lot from it, too. They understand that Dante Thornton's a senior. Bru McCoy's a senior. Squirrel White's a junior, probably going to get drafted this year. They see the opportunity in next year, I think. I think that's why they're really locking in. Let's talk about some of these freshmen.
Yeah, because there's two of them that
there's two of them, talk about. And there's one that's overshadowing the other, and that's totally okay. Yes. But I can promise you, if the one wasn't here, you'd be talking about the other just as much as you would be talking about this one. But I'm going to start out, because he always gets overlooked, I'm going to start out with Braylon Staley, the 4-star. This kid's actually turning some heads. Unfortunately, getting a little outplayed by his counterpart, just because I think, honestly, because the star rating, he just gets covered different. But Braylon Staley is one of those guys that came in, understood the assignment, and he's put his head down, got to work. He's already added some size. Unfortunately, I think this is a redshirt year for him. But if need be, he would absolutely burn it, come onto the field, and I think he'd be a contributor pretty quickly. Kind of like Chaz Nimrod was last year, Nathan Leacock, and whatnot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There's a lot of upside this year for him, but I agree. I think this is probably going to be a redshirt year for him. You'll see him in games like UT Chat, like I'm trying to think, UTEP. You're going to see him in games like that, and if it gets down into garbage time,
Kent State.
Can't stay. If it gets down into garbage time against some SEC teams, I don't see many blowouts this year. But
so against Oklahoma, when we're up by like 40 at their play.
What? Well, I was gonna go more like Vanderbilt, but or Kentucky, but anyway, but I think that over time, as long as he sticks with it, he is going to be a very big piece for the Vols in the coming years.
100%. So obviously, give us a rundown of the next one, because I've already kind of hinted toward it. But who's that 5-star that we got in the room right now? What's his name?
It's Mike Matthews, and he has been impressing during practices, during scrimmages and stuff. You mentioned something that I wasn't fully aware of. He's not participated.
He's not participated in 100% of the practices. But I don't think it's anything serious.
Yeah, probably just precautionary. But towards the beginning of our position previews, I kept thinking, all right, when we get to wide receivers, I'm going to be so high on Mike Matthews, and I still am.
100%.
I still am. He has got so much talent, and in the orange and white game, made a couple of impressive catches. But I think he's going to be buried this year just because of what is in front of him. I think that he might be that next guy around the 5 or 6 spot to kind of get some time.
I think he's in the 2 deep. I agree with you, but I think he's not the next man in. I agree. He's in the 2 deep, So I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think that's okay. I think that's really okay. Think about Nico coming in as a 5-star. Everybody wanted to talk about him, but I think him sitting a year, technically, I guess he redshirted, because the bowl game didn't count. Gave him some time to understand this offense just a little bit more, to perfect it, to where this year I think he's in for a good year. I think this is kind of one of those years for a guy like Matt Matthews. Absolutely, he could go out there and ball out in year 1, but what does it hurt for him to sit out a year and still keep all of his eligibility, right? And just be a year older, a year more experienced, a year bigger, faster, stronger, and go out and ball out next year. I mean, obviously, you're not guaranteed the next year, but it's just one of those deals where I love that we're at the point in the program where we have dudes around him.
Yes.
I don't like when a freshman comes in and he already knows he's the dude, because it shows me the level of competition in the room is not high. Whereas if we end up redshirting this guy, Matt Matthews, it shows me, okay, he's around other dudes and he's actually learning before he even steps on the field. And I think that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But overall, this room, it's highly anticipated this year because of the upside that this room has. But there's still a lot of unknowns here, and I've actually got a very hot take for you on this wide receiver room this year.
Hot take. Blitnikoff Award winner? What?
No, I'm actually
2 and 3 seasons.
I'm actually not going to go there, because I think that we are going to see a little bit more of a rotation this year.
I do think so. Yeah.
I don't think we have 1,000-yard receiver this year.
Nah, I think you're full of crap. All right, never mind. That is a hot take. That's crazy. Nah,
if we
that's like you doubting Nico, my man. Like, come on.
No. But I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying because I think he is going to spread the ball out so much among the receivers that play, as well as his tight ends and his running backs, that we're not going to have a 1,000-yard receiver.
Chat, what do you think about that? Chat, I mean, literally, we got like 8 people on YouTube, 9 people on YouTube. We got 5 on Facebook. Do y'all think we have a 1,000-yard receiver this year? I think we may have 2. So that's why I call cap on the not a single one. I 100% agree with you. I think we could have like a 600-yard tight end receiver. Yeah. So I mean, I see your point, and especially if the rotate. I just don't know if the rotation is going to be that balanced.
It might not be.
I don't think it'll be that balanced. I think you'll still have your clear number ones. And then, of course, if a drive goes 10 plays, you may have to rotate or whatever. But, like, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't think – I feel like Nico would almost have to have a really bad year to not have a single 1,000-yard receiver with the people that he's got in that room. So,
see, I think that we're going to have a couple of guys that are around 800-900 that have another one around 600-700. I think, like you said, I think we're going to have a
400, 500 or whatever.
Yes, that's where I'm getting at. I think Nico's going to have a fantastic year. I think the wide receivers in general are going to have a fantastic year. I just feel like we're not going to have that guy get over 1,000 yards, or if we do, it's going to be one guy, and I'm going to say it's going to be Squirrel White just because of how much he's going to get the ball.
Yeah, I think it's Squirrel White and Chris Brazzell. If that's my 2,
yes.
You know, if that's my 2 that I have to guess right now, maybe Dante Thornton, but I think it's Chris Brazzell. Look, Justin once again proving how he never agrees with me. He always agrees with Michael. Y'all think I'm making this up? If y'all are watching this for the first time, this is like every week thing. It's fine. It's fine. I know where you live, Justin. That is not a threat. That is not a threat. I was just saying that I know where he lives. You know. All right. That's a little short recap. It was not short at all, actually. 35 minutes on that recap of the wide receiver room. There's definitely some more names in that room, but I think we kind of hit the top names and some of the guys that you're going to be seeing this year. Matt Stone says tough call. I say yes. Who knows who? I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. You have no idea who it could. It could be Brew McCoy for all we know.
It could be any one of these guys that we named.
It's really dictated on what the defense runs. If they're running press man, yeah, your wideouts could have a heyday just running go routes. But if they're running cover 4, you know, and playing, you know, 8 deep, only rushing 3 people, you ain't gonna be throwing that much. I mean, it really depends on what the defense is throwing at you to dictates to where you're going with the ball. So that is a tough call. I agree. Let's see. I think that's about it for the wide receiver group. I think we're going to roll this thing up. Do you have anything left, Michael?
No, let's go ahead and get into some of these schedule predictions, man.
Let's get into it. We doing Ole Miss or Texas first?
We'll do Ole Miss first.
Well, without further ado, segment 2 sponsor is P&L Business Services, your accounting, payroll, and consulting company. We know firsthand that getting your monthly reporting, invoicing, bill pay, taxes, and other essential business services right is critical. That's why at P&L Business Services, we go beyond bookkeeping by providing you with everything you need in your back office so you can have your time back and the peace of mind to do what you love most, which is building your business. Behind every successful business is a great bookkeeper. Guys, reach out to P&L Business Services at PNLBusinessServices.com. It's as simple as that. You see it right there. Just add a .com to the end of it. Get you situated. They'll ask you for some information. They'll get with you immediately. That's a family-owned business, a mother, her son, and man, I think they got 8 people in the office now. They are growing like my weeds across the fence. It's crazy. I'm really happy for them. They invested in us. They believe in what we do, and we couldn't be more appreciative. So, guys, if y'all are thinking this is crazy, I should have never started a business, I have no time to do the paperwork because I'm so busy out in the field, look to P&L Business Services. They can absolutely help you out. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get on with the first of 2 predictions this afternoon. And I'm going to.
Well, one last thing on the wide receivers before we move ahead.
What's that?
Robert chimes in. He says, it's possible, but he thinks either Brazzell or Squirrel will hit the 1,000+ mark this year. So
that's what I said. I mean, I think if not both. I'm seriously, like, those guys are explosive and they're fast. And they're completely different, though. Like, Brazzell's a big dude. Squirrel's not.
What is he, like 5'11", I think? Maybe 6
Squirrel's 5'11" and like 165. I mean, he is seriously like our Tyreek Hill. Like if I could just compare him to somebody. Brazel's 6'5". I mean, he's 6-7 inches taller than Squirrel White. And but I think, I don't know, Brazel maybe 195, 200 pounds. So
200 is what they have him listed at.
That's what I figured. Yeah, right around 200. Who knows if that's actually accurate or not? But either way, I like it. Let's get to Ole Miss. I'm going to let you start it off with the predictions, though.
All right, so Ole Miss this year has a very favorable schedule when you look at some of the teams that they play. They do have a couple of tough games, but Ole Miss, they really sold their soul for this year in the transfer portal.
I agree.
They brought in a lot of big names. Now, some of them they lost just because they either couldn't pay them what they were promised, or maybe some other situations arose. But did take let's see, they did try to get Tyler Barron. He was there for a little bit, and then Tyler Barron just kind of bounced around because he wasn't getting paid enough. But,
I think he ended up at Miami.
Yeah, he's at Miami, going to get beat by Florida in week 1.
Bro went to like 5 different places this spring, man.
He went to Ole Miss. He went to Louisville.
And then I think he went somewhere else before he went to Miami. Like, it was crazy. That dude's went everywhere.
Yeah. But Ole Miss this year, start off against Furman in week 1. You get a win there. You play against MTSU in week 2. You get a win there. You travel to Wake Forest in week 3. This is not the Sam Hartman-led Wake Forest Demon Deacons. You go to Wake Forest and you get a win there as well.
At Wake Forest? That's crazy. No, I'm sure.
Kind of like Vanderbilt going to Wake Forest, but
whoa.
Georgia Southern week 4, you get a win there, and then you start your conference play after that at home against Kentucky. You get a win in that one before you travel to South Carolina and get a win there. And I'm not going to say blowout in either one of these games, but I think it's at least 2 touchdowns that Ole Miss wins by in both of those games. I just don't see it being,
if they show up ready to play. If they end up being one of those teams that play down to their competition, could be a completely different story with those 2 teams.
But let me say this that I didn't hit off the top of the broadcast here with Ole Miss is I am a big believer in Matt Corral, and he's got a lot of talent around him. And
Matt Corral or Jackson Dart?
Oh, it is Jackson. Man, Matt Corral was what, 3
years
ago?
You went back. Yeah, I was gonna say you went back a little bit.
Man, that was like 3 years ago. Yes, Jackson Dart. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're good. I was like, I'm a believer in Matt Corral too, but I don't know how he's doing with the Panthers organization right now.
But no, Jackson Dart. He had a great year last year. There was times that his offensive line just didn't help him out as much as he needed them to. And, a lot of people said that the loss of Quinshon Judkins was huge, and it is. But I think Ulysses Bentley right behind him is just as talented. So I really don't think that running back position is going to fall off as much as people think.
Yeah.
All right. LSU at LSU on October the 12th. We talked about this in our LSU prediction. This is going to be a tough game. It is more than likely going to be a night game. But there is still some unknowns around the LSU offense and defense. So I'm going to give Ole Miss the win in this game. It's going to be tough, but I think
a whole lot of green dubs on this schedule.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss squeaks one out there. Oklahoma, after a bye week, I think this is a great spot for Ole Miss to play against Oklahoma.
See, this is how a bye week should be set up. We've done so many predictions where there's a bye week before Furman.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but this one is set up perfect for Ole Miss here.
Yeah, so I've got Ole Miss winning against Oklahoma. You get Arkansas at this point in the season. Sam Pittman may or may not be there. Either way, Ole Miss gets a win there.
Is he doing it? Is he going all the way?
Georgia on November the 9th. It's going to be a huge game.
They get him at home.
They do get him at home. But Georgia is just too much for Ole Miss in this game.
You're no fun whatsoever. Whatever.
So I've got Ole Miss first loss against Georgia there. But you do pick up Florida at the end of the season. At Florida, we don't know where Florida is going to be at this point. Both of us think that Florida is going to be falling off the table at this point.
But look, hear me out. Once again, after the emotional loss in your scenario, they get the bye week to regroup before they head to play in the swamp, which I think is a massive. I think it could be a little chilly. Now, it's not going to be cold in Florida, but it could be a little chilly being November 23rd. But, man, what a setup. What a setup with the bye weeks for this Ole Miss team. I mean, one, it's a workable schedule, and two, to get the bye weeks when they got them, I think couldn't be a better advantage for Ole Miss.
I completely agree, which is why I think they go down to Florida and they get a win.
There it is.
Then you get the Egg Bowl, which unfortunately is not on Thanksgiving Day.
If you don't squat like a dog and piss in the end zone, you win the game, right? Like,
yeah, you absolutely win that game. But this is gonna be a fun game. You got Lane Kiffin versus Jeff Lebby, two high-powered offenses. I think that this is going to be a really fun game. Anything can happen, but I do think that Ole Miss, especially with the game being at home, pulls it out. I've got them going 11-1 this season in Lane Kiffin's farewell tour at Ole Miss. So.
Robert tunes in on paper. See, me and Robert actually think a lot alike right here. On paper, Ole Miss should be competing for the SEC championship game and a playoff spot, but with so many transfer portal players, how will these players mesh with one another? What egos take over? One, I think Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, has a lot to do with the whole egos not taking over thing, and that's why you've seen their best running back leave.
Yep,
I think now, but I agree with you. So clear this, clear all the. Why is just get it off the screen.
Let me real quick give my my.
Oh yeah, you gotta do best case and worst case. So go ahead and do that, but because I do have some things I gotta say.
So absolutely, the ceiling for this team is 12-0. I just think that it's unlikely with Georgia on the schedule. The floor, and this is where I like Robert's comment there. Will the transfer portal players kind of mesh together? That's a big thing that in some cases we have seen them not mesh together like they need to. So if in Robert's scenario they don't, I can see this team going 8-4 with losses, or not. I'll say 7-5 at absolute worst, with losses to LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State. That is absolute worst case scenario. Because
Mississippi State, because it's the rivalry, right? I mean, because I don't think it's really even possible. Okay, yeah.
Yes, and Florida, because you do get that game at home. You mentioned you're coming off a possible emotional loss to Georgia. Yes, you get a bye week. But could that be – we talked about it with Florida. Where is that one game that we feel like Florida could win in that brutal 5-game stretch at the end of the season? Could it be Ole Miss? Maybe.
Could be. Get this off the screen. Get it off the screen, bro. Somebody just likes Lane Kiffin's what I'm hearing. Whatever. Get it off the screen, bro. Come on. It's still there. Thank you. All right. So – Ole Miss is literally last year's Michigan.
Really?
This year's Ohio State. Ohio State and Ole Miss are so similar this year as far as what they did in the offseason to try to make things work. Will it work out for them? I don't know. That's a great question, Robert. But I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I think they go undefeated. I think they win all these games. You can go ahead and just slap them up there. Go ahead. Show them all the green dubs. Go ahead. Yep, absolutely. I'll talk about it. Go ahead. Keep on. Just to prove them that I'm not just talking. Go ahead. Boom. I think Ole Miss goes undefeated. I think they're 12-0 in the regular season. And I know, I get it. Like, I know I just told him that I think he likes Lane Kiffin. I think I do too. I don't know. It's crazy. But I like to hate him. Look, Georgia is going to be one of those highly emotional games that we talked about. Remember how last year's game went? That's got to be on the minds of a lot of those players. And I know it's on the mind of Lane Kiffin. Remember the last time when Lane Kiffin said, hold your popcorn, whatever, against Alabama, and they got freaking slapped? I'm just saying, like, I feel like if Lane Kiffin's going to grow as a coach, it's that Georgia game. It's about coming back, keeping your mind straight. Now, I do not see Ole Miss going undefeated the entire way and win it at all. I feel like they'll actually lose the championship game to Georgia because in my scenario, the way it's going to work out, and y'all find out. But I've got Georgia and Ole Miss seeding each other in the SEC championship. But a lot of this kind of comes down to who they're playing. I mean, let's be honest. Ole Miss got such a workable schedule. They got Oklahoma and Georgia. They got the least of the two that they had to play, right, between Texas and Oklahoma. I think they got the betterment of that. And then they're dodging Tennessee. They're dodging Alabama. They're dodging Missouri. They're dodging a lot of really high-quality teams. I'm not as high on LSU as a lot of folks are, but I do think that would be a fun game. But I think, again, last year, that was such a shootout. They'll remember that. Again, Justin, just agreeing with you because that's all he does, and that's totally fine. I don't care. Like nobody's going to predict Ole Miss to go undefeated because of that Georgia game. I want to be a little different. I'm tired of giving Georgia just these undefeated preseason predictions because I just feel like anybody could do that, in a way. And I do feel like Georgia's going to lose one in the regular season, and I think it's this game. I think Georgia was really close to losing one last year with how easy their schedule was in the regular season, and they ended up losing to an Alabama team who I didn't feel like was really that good. This year, Georgia has a lot more of a tougher schedule. I don't see them going undefeated. I really don't. That's just me. That's my personal opinion. If Ole Miss has any opportunity to do this, it is this year. There's no other. Now, obviously, they could still make the playoff losing to Georgia. They could honestly still probably win or make the SEC championship losing to Georgia, depending on how all the other dominoes fall. But if Ole Miss is going to do it, and especially with it being what they've done in the offseason, me and you both kind of agree Lane Kiffin's out of here after this year. And I just think it's got to be this year. It's got to be. You get Georgia at home. You're going to have the bowl. What is that place called? What is the place called? I'm blanking here.
Egg Bowl?
No, not the Egg Bowl. That's the rivalry. I'm talking about Hottie Tot. What's Ole Miss's field name? Or
Vaught Hemingway
Stadium. Thank you. That place is gonna be rolling. The Grove. Is it the Grove?
Yeah. I think you're right.
I think it's the Grove. Anyways, that place is gonna be rocking. Their tailgates are off the charts. If you've ever been to a freaking Ole Miss game, their tailgates are insane. I'm just saying, like, if they can roll into Georgia being 8-0, 9-0 at that point, look out. Ole Miss is coming, and I don't think they're gonna let that mistake happen like happened last year. As far as just getting blown out the water. Who knows? Like I said, I was going to keep the prediction short and sweet because I do have a pretty hot take on that. But Justin comes in and says this is a long shot, but you could be right. I could be, and I could be completely wrong, and that's fine. I eat my words. I'm on a podcast. I'm saying it. That way you have it forever. I'm just saying nobody else is going to do this because of that Georgia game sitting the way it sits. And I'm just tired of giving in to Georgia. Like, I feel like somebody's going to beat Georgia. It could be us. Could be Ole Miss. Could be Alabama. Georgia's got a tough schedule. I'm telling you.
And we'll get to Georgia next week. So,
yeah, Robert tunes in. I'm intrigued with the LSU this year. The defense is garbage. I think they're still going to be garbage. However, it should be better with a new defensive coordinator, Blake Baker. Baker? Is that from All-American? Coach Baker? I'm joking.
Maybe so.
Joking. It's tough playing in Death Valley game to watch. It is. It is tough unless you're Tennessee. It is tough to play in Death Valley. So, Matt Stone even comes in here, says easy schedule and they're real good this year, but I can't stand Ole Miss. Both my parents and half my family went to Mississippi State. Go to HE double hockey sticks, Ole Miss. I hope they lose at least 3. I feel you, man. I'm sorry, my man. I didn't mean to ruffle your feathers like that. I just look if Ole Miss honestly this goes a long way in how I feel about Lane Kiffin too, right? Because if he doesn't get it done this year. Is he really that good of a coach?
That's true. That's very true.
He can't recruit. Now, he blames that on being at Ole Miss. So that's why they went to the transfer portal, Robert, is because he can't get these guys, from high school. So he's having to pick these kids up from the transfer portal. He's kind of built this team the way Michigan, we said at the beginning of the prediction, they sold their soul this year. It's exactly what Michigan did. It's exactly what Ohio State's doing right now. Very possible you can see Ole Miss and Ohio State not playing for the national championship, but very much in the playoff and could be facing off against each other in the round of 8 or however that playoff works out. But whatever.
So I am going to, and I know it's going to really, really sound like I'm a Lane Kiffin lover, but I am going to defend him on the recruiting part for this. All right. So have you ever considered Ole Miss a national title contender or Mississippi State for that instance either? No.
Have I ever considered Ole Miss? I've actually considered Ole Miss over Mississippi State even before Dak Prescott. Yes. I mean, Ole Miss had kind of been flirting with top 10 every year. I think back of Hugh Freeze's tenure at Ole Miss, and they just seemed to be kind of like that Auburn team that surprised Alabama, I think, a couple years in a row, maybe even 3 or 4 years that they were beating Alabama. And so, I've always had a higher level of respect for Ole Miss, but for Mississippi State, I've never really ever looked at them as a title contender.
But look, when you look at those two teams right there, your recruiting grounds are being won by teams like Alabama, by Auburn, by LSU. You even go into some Texas A&M.
Yep.
Those teams,
they're in a terrible spot.
That are national title contenders. So it is hard to win those recruiting battles. So I think that's where Lane Kiffin has done a great job of hitting the transfer portal and getting guys, because he feels like that's his way of having success.
Yeah, and now you're losing Memphis to Tennessee because Tennessee's kind of built their way back up, and Tennessee's dipping in the in-state kids, even all the way at Memphis. Tennessee's pulled several guys from Memphis in the last couple of seasons. So
I'm not going to say that he is a bad recruiter, and I do think that if he's in a different situation, maybe Florida, for instance, that's
where we all think he's going. So
yeah, I think that he can have success as far as recruiting goes. We'll see. But, both of us agree this is his last year at Ole Miss, especially if they have the success that we think that they will.
Pick on me, teacher. I'm raising my hand. Come on.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So, does it all change if he gets it done at Ole Miss? Because at that point, he's at the top of the pinnacle. He probably has a job for life. Does he leave that? Or does he only leave if he doesn't get it done at Ole Miss?
I think he leaves regardless.
You think he leaves regardless?
He has stated numerous times that he does not like Oxford.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I think that he leaves regardless, even if he does get it done.
All right. I thought maybe it's a little bit different because if you won the Natty at that point, you're looked at as a legend at that university. Stay there and enjoy the rest of your 20 years coaching and not have any expectations on your shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's the way I was looking at it. But if he goes to Florida, he kind of resets back at zero. Obviously but I think you're right. It kind of looks a lot like Nick Saban, right? Where he won the title at LSU, went pro a little bit, then went straight back to, Alabama. I think I agree with you, actually. I think he does.
So we've already got your ceiling because obviously they're 12-0. What do you think the floor for this Ole Miss team is?
I think the floor is 9-3. I think they'd lose to Georgia. I think they could lose to LSU. And then I'm going to say one or the other between Oklahoma and, I guess, Mississippi State. I don't think they lose to Mississippi State whatsoever. I just think if we're doing floor here and things hit the absolute fan for this team, which 9-3 for a floor is pretty freaking good. So I'm going to stick to 9-3. I have a good feeling this team's going to be good with the schedule that they got. If not, Lane Kiffin could get fired, honestly. Like, if they go 7-5 in this year with this schedule, holy crap, what a miss. So I just think, 9-3 is the absolute floor for this Ole Miss team.
Yeah, I think that's a fair floor right there. I went 7-5 just because, like Robert said, we sometimes don't see these transfer portal players mesh the way they need to.
Well, no,
so that is
7-5 is fair because let's be honest. Furman, Jackson Dart twists his ankle like Aaron Rodgers, out for the season. What happens?
Yeah.
No. That's why the games have to be played. I like doing predictions because you kind of get an idea where everybody's head's at before the season starts. But at the end of the day, the games have to be played. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, anything could absolutely change any of these trajectories. That's why I love when people come in here like, November 30th, somebody's going to comment on this video and be like, wow, you're way wrong. Well, okay, wrong? No, we had no idea what they were going to do. But this is just what I'm expecting. And I wanted to be a little different and choose Ole Miss over Georgia because I know nobody else in the country is going to do that. So, sorry. We come here to be different, okay? Sorry.
Yeah. So, you got anything else on Ole Miss before we move ahead to segment 3?
Nope. Justin's really looking forward to this segment. So, let's move on to that Texas segment. What do we think about the Texas Longhorns? But before we get into that, Michael, you want to let us know who our segment 3 sponsor is?
Yeah. So, our segment 3 sponsor is Kaizen Painting. Do you want a colorful life? Kaizen is a painting and drywall company that provides residential, commercial, exterior, and interior services. At Kaizen Painting, we understand the importance of a beautifully painted home and properly installed and repaired drywall. We're here to bring your vision to life, and we care about providing you with a personalized, efficient, and quality service. If you live in Knoxville and surroundings, contact us for a free estimate at KaizenPainting.com. Color your life the Kaizen way.
So I guess I'll start this thing off. I think Texas actually gets demoted back down to the Big 12 after this season.
Do you think the Big 12 takes them back?
Texas will actually lead the SEC to start their Power 5 to make it 5 again. They'll start their own conference, and it'll be like Northern Texas Conference. It'll be something weird, stupid. They'll have like, what is it, Dallas Baptist. They'll have DBU up in there. They'll have Texas. I'm sure they'll, whatever. Is it North Texas University? Who's the green college up there?
Yeah, North Texas. You have
Texas?
UTEP, UTSA.
I have all the little brothers, brother. No, I'm joking. Tech wouldn't even join that. No, absolutely not. A&M and Tech would say no, absolutely not. Texas Tech probably on cloud 9 because they just lost A&M and Texas, right? So now they're the big dogs in Texas. Probably not. I don't know.
Are they, or is it TCU?
It's not TCU, dog. They had one good season. All right. Colorado State. Colorado State's just not that good of a program, but neither is Texas. I'm joking. That's a win. At Michigan, though, right off the bat, week 2, where is Michigan? We have a good feeling of where Texas is, right? I mean, where's Michigan after everything that's going on? And there's more drama coming around at Michigan. I mean, have you not heard the latest news? Sharon Moore, whatever his name is, he's now apparently deleted some texts. Apparently, they were all on this, allegedly, all in this scandal, except, was it Jim Harbaugh or is it John? I confuse the brothers all the time, but I think it was Jim Harbaugh.
It's Jim, but
yeah,
that's complete BS. I mean,
yeah, so he didn't know anything about it, even though he's the head coach of this university. But apparently, everybody else was in on this. I don't know what's to come of it. I do know they go to the big house. I'm telling you, this could be a trap game for Texas. But Texas won the last big test they had in a week 2 game, and they went on the road to do it. I think they do it again. I think they pull out the win against Michigan. Again, I think Michigan sold their soul for that season last year, and I think you're going to see a lot of that this year. I don't think Michigan's a competitive team. I think they literally could go 9-3 in one of the weaker conferences. Yes, I just said the Big Ten's a weak conference, and they are. Look at it. It's Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Who? Nobody. All right. Well, now, Jesus Christ, I forgot about the whole, whatever. Yes, exactly. UTSA would be in that conference. Hey, San Antonio would absolutely be in that. I think they get the win there. UL Monroe, they get the win there. And then they get the bye week before Mississippi State. No, I'm joking. They don't get the bye week before Mississippi State. But honestly, that's how we've been seeing it. Mississippi State, they get the win there, and they do actually get a helpful bye week before the Oklahoma game. The Texas State Fair.
Yep.
For that Red River
shootout.
Yeah, exactly, dude. So Texas gets it done this year. I think they get it done over Oklahoma. They've always, I feel like, been the better team, but some reason they just always choke it to Oklahoma. But I think this year they get it done before losing to Georgia. I just don't think after the win over Oklahoma they can keep it going with Georgia. It is what it is. Sue me, whatever. They go to Vanderbilt. Now that place is going to be rocking. And Justin even said this. 11-1, we lose to Vanderbilt. Now, in my scenario, you'd actually be 10-2, brother, because I'm telling you, Vanderbilt Stadium renovations, this place is going to be loud, mostly because they just got a lot of speakers and not a lot of fans. But either way, it's going to be bumping. And if Vanderbilt can get this done, expect a world record single file line onto the field. But it's not going to happen. Texas is going to get that win there. I don't even think that's a close game. They get another bye week before playing Florida. Now, I don't think this bye week really helps them that much because Vanderbilt was not really a contested game, in my opinion. So they probably get 2 or 3 weeks before playing Florida. They get Florida at home. It's a pretty good trip for Florida, honestly. If from down to Gainesville all the way over to Austin, I think they get the win over Florida. They can't overlook Florida, but at this point, I think we both agree that Florida could be on a downward trajectory pretty hard. I think this is in the middle of Florida's 5-game stupid stretch.
Yep.
And this is just game 2 of it. So buckle up for Florida Gator fans because that's going to be a rough stretch. And I hope y'all get 1 or 2 out of it, even as a Tennessee fan. But I hope you have a losing season. But I mean, if I had to pull for you, get one of those 5, sure, just to feel good about it. But I mean, I still think you're going to be 6-6, 5-7. At Arkansas, this is a big rivalry game, I think. It's not going to matter. Texas is going to win it. Kentucky, what do we think about Kentucky? We've already told you what we thought about Kentucky, and it ain't good, at least in my opinion. So give me Texas in that game, and then you got A&M. You're going to A&M, the 12th man, and my God, A&M would love nothing more than to be sitting at like 7-4 and ready to spoil your dreams right here in the final game of the season, and they could have a chance to do it. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not my prediction, but if you're Texas, you can't beat Oklahoma and then lose to A&M in your first season in the SEC. You can't lose to A&M when you're right. You imagine the crap talk from A&M under first-year head coach Mike Oko, and then losing in your first year freshman season in the SEC. You can't lose to little brother. So I got Texas going 11-1 with the ceiling being 12-0. Obviously, you could absolutely beat Georgia. I think you're on par with Georgia. I just think Georgia gets it done, especially because you host Georgia. I think that's a big deal. I think the floor is I think it's only 10-2. I think this Texas team is in for a great season. I think the only other loss that they have, oh my God, breaking news. Justin agrees with me. Like, even with the L, like, this is insane. The guys, we have to note it. Go ahead, clip it, because this is the only time I'm ever going to see the comment under my name. Okay. But with everything going on, I think the only other loss they could really have is probably A&M. Maybe Oklahoma, I guess, because those are both good rivalries. But I don't think they lose to both of them. So I cannot see this team going 9-3, even in the worst case scenario. I think it's 10-2 or 12-0, and I'm going with 11-1 here.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert. Justin also agrees with me because I'm gonna have the exact same one. But I do want to talk about some of these games going down through here. So I'll talk about. This has got to be
the first time that's happened.
Yeah, it might be.
There's no stairs in Austin, Matt says. Fair enough, dude. Fair enough. But this has got to be the first time all freaking year that we've done this. I guess in the last 4 or 5 weeks that we've done this. So
yeah. So how about the easy schedule that Texas has in their first year of conference? You do get Georgia.
You get the high emotional games with Oklahoma and Texas A&M because I think those are going to be wild. But really, I mean, we're talking 3 games that are seriously competitive. Yeah,
you don't play
Michigan. Let's not overlook Michigan. But I think Michigan's
I've
not going to be good.
I've got thoughts on Michigan, and I will give them to you.
Yeah, I don't think Michigan's going to be good this year, man. I just don't. But whatever. This could be one of those like Georgia versus Oregon games a couple years ago where Texas could beat Michigan 53 to freaking like nothing. Like it could be really bad. And I mean, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you don't pull Ole Miss, you don't pull Missouri, you don't pull Tennessee, you don't pull Alabama.
He's already getting confident. I don't like it. He said we don't need Bama this year because we don't whip Bama. All right, son.
And there we go.
They still made it as far as you did in the playoff. That's crazy.
Yeah. So starting off with Colorado State, you get a win there. Michigan, week 2. I have got Michigan going 7-5 this year.
I'm telling you, I can see that.
I'm not going to break down their schedule because this is, we're focused on the SEC, but Michigan is not going to be good this year. Texas is going to do just what you said. They're going to go up there and they're going to absolutely whoop the crap out of Michigan in that game.
Big statement
in Ann Arbor.
Big statement game.
Yeah, Texas is going to win handily over Michigan there. You get wins over UTSA and UL Monroe before going to Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State is going to put up some points in this game, but I think Texas has just got too many Jimmys and Joes on this team, and they're gonna win by a couple of touchdowns. But I think that Mississippi State will hang with them for just a little bit in this game. You do, as you mentioned, get the bye week before playing against Oklahoma. The past couple of years, I think Justin said this last week, they have lost 2 straight against Oklahoma. And 2 games where you had, you had the lead. And in one of those years, you were up by like 28, I think, in the first half, or maybe even going into the third quarter, and ended up losing that lead. But I don't think that happens this year. I think Texas gets the win in this one in Dallas. Coming off the emotional high of that win against Oklahoma, I do think that you see a little bit of a letdown against Georgia. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to take Georgia right now just until Georgia proves that I can't trust them. So Georgia wins this game. Vanderbilt, there's going to be more Texas fans than there are Vanderbilt fans there. You get a win there. Florida, as we mentioned, this is in that brutal 5-game stretch at the end of the season. Texas is going to win this one and probably win it pretty easily. Arkansas, this has not been a big rivalry in our lifetime, but you go back to the 90s and before then, even back when they were in the Big 8, this was a huge rivalry. I love that this rivalry is going to come back, maybe, depending on what they do as far as 8-game or 9-game schedules. But I don't think it's going to be close this year, and Texas wins this one easily. You get an easy win over Kentucky, next to last game of the season, and tuning up for Texas A&M. It's going to be a tough game. The first time we've seen this game since 2012 or 2011.
I think it was 11. 2012 was Johnny Ball, and they were in the SEC, I believe.
That's right. So. That's right. I think you do get a win, but it's going to be close in this one.
I'm telling you, Kyle Field is going to be rocking, dude.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you as far as ceiling and floor as well. I think absolutely they can go 12-0 by beating Georgia. And I don't think you lose to both Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I think that you split those games, and the worst that you do is 10-2 this year.
I think that's it. I think Texas, a lot like Ole Miss, has to take advantage of this opportunity. Even with the Georgia game, I'm sorry, I did choose, I guess, Ole Miss over Texas here, but you have to capitalize. Like this year, this is probably going to be the easier of the schedules you'll get in the SEC, and it just so happened it was your first year in it. But Justin comes in. He says he thinks that the floor could be the fact that they lose to A&M and Oklahoma and Georgia. So he thinks 9-3 is the floor. So technically, he doesn't agree with us 100%. That's okay. I didn't think it was really normal that he was agreeing with me anyways. He thinks that Texas loses to A&M to knock them out of the playoffs.
A&M would absolutely
love this. Would have to so they would have to lose to Oklahoma and Georgia and be 9-2, right? Because at that point, that would be the only way to they would have to be 9-3.
Well,
because I think a 10-2 Texas team could absolutely be in the playoff.
I think they can, but we talked about it a little bit off air. I think that the SEC has a legitimate possibility to have maybe 4 teams at 11-1, maybe more than that at 11-1 by the end of the season. And if you're a Texas team that is at 10-2 with, we'll just go with 3 SEC teams sitting at 11-1. Man, you're on the chopping block there of not making the playoffs. And that also depends on what some of the other teams in other conferences do as well.
Yeah, look, I'm going to hit this comment real quick. A&M has something to prove since we beat them last game when they were in the Big 12. I think that was back in 2011. Okay, that's true. Let's just point out the obvious here. The way the schedule sits, we're talking Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas. I'm going to throw in Alabama. I have to throw in Missouri because of their schedule.
Yeah.
That is almost a guaranteed 5 teams over 10-2. I would say guaranteed 5 teams over 10-2. I want to throw in Tennessee in there as almost a guaranteed 10-2, but a lot of things have to happen for Tennessee to do it. Not a lot. I think Tennessee should be 9-3, if not 10-2. But that obviously coming from a fan. But I just think it's almost a given that you have to be at least 10-2 if you want to sniff the playoff. in the SEC, and like you pointed out, you almost have to be 11-1 because you're going to have probably. I don't know if you'll have a single undefeated team in the SEC, but you will have several at 11-1 intended. The way the schedules are worked out, I mean, this. So what happens when you add a bunch of teams and you only play 8 games is you got a lot of teams that don't play each other. So it's almost possible for these teams to go undefeated in the same conference. You could almost have 2, I think 2, maybe 3. I don't know how it'd work out for 3, but. You could almost have 2 or 3 teams be undefeated at the end of the year.
Yeah. But I will say this. If Texas goes 10-2 this year, you're looking at a loss to, we both said Georgia, and either Oklahoma or Texas A&M. Here's an argument for them to not make the playoffs. Look at your other wins on the schedule. Especially if these teams finish where we think they will. Mississippi State, we said what? Or I said 6-6. You said I think 4-8.
Yeah, I was not.
You're looking in the bottom half of the conference. Vanderbilt gonna be the bottom half. Florida bottom half. Arkansas Kentucky. Bottom half. Kentucky probably right in the middle somewhere. If you can't win the games against Oklahoma, against Georgia, against Texas A&M.
Who are your quad 1 wins if you put it in basketball terms? I mean, like
Michigan, but at that point, are they going to be towards the top? I mean, you don't have that standout.
You're talking Michigan will be a ranked game because it's early in the year. But at that point, maybe Oklahoma being a ranked team because their schedule at the beginning of the year is actually pretty easy. Georgia's going to be ranked, so that's 3 teams. And then who's going to be ranked after that? I don't think you'll have another ranked matchup. I don't think Texas A&M will be ranked. I just think that'll be a highly emotional games. You have a possibility of only 3 ranked games. Remember, was it last year or the year before when we played 7 ranked teams?
Yeah, that was 2022.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you're absolutely right. They have to win the games that are, they're tougher opponents. Michigan, Oklahoma, Georgia, they have to take care of business because if they don't, their wins don't really carry a lot of weight. I think you're 100% right. Even though they're in the SEC, yes, we're saying that, but look at the opponents, guys. I mean, they're not great teams. I mean, Florida should be, absolutely historically has been. Just right now, I mean, there are 3 back-to-back-to-back losing seasons in which they went 6-7, 5-7, and 5-7. I mean, what is Florida going to be this year? I don't know. I think that's right. 5-7. It might have been 5-7.
I think it was
5-7.
Yeah, 5-7, 6-7, and 5-7.
Sorry. Either way, 7 losses in 3 straight, years. So, I mean, we'll see. But overall, you've already said your floor and ceiling's pretty much lined up with mine. That's going to do it for this segment. Now, I kind of want to touch on a couple things.
Let's do it, man.
Before I do that, Robert, we appreciate you, man, tuning in the entire show. We still have 7 people in the YouTube live chat. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. By the way, we're only at 5 likes though. Let's get that thing up. If you haven't liked the video already, please be sure to do that. If you're on Facebook, share that thing. We're almost wrapped up. We got one more little segment left. But Robert says you're right, Michael. 2 lost Texas, and how can you put them in the playoffs? Who did they beat? Is that worthy of you going to the playoffs? If you lose to Georgia and Oklahoma or A&M, you're not worthy. That's the short answer. And that's not what Texas wants to hear, but it's right. That's why when you play Dynasty mode in NCAA, like you always put all the harder teams in the schedule. And that way, if you lose one, it doesn't count as bad. So, yeah, I'll be playing instead of Kent State, I'll be playing Alabama. I'm joking because you can't do, obviously, in conference. But I'll be playing Michigan or something. Yeah. Why not? Clemson.
Michigan,
give me Clemson,
Ohio State.
Exactly. Give me something crazy. Give me Oregon. I'll be playing them. But anyways, a couple things I want to hit on. So NFL preseason just started. I don't give a rat's rear end about NFL. However,
me either.
I like to follow up with the guys that went to Tennessee because I'm a VFL. I think those guys are a VFL. And if you didn't know, our VFL has had a hell of a weekend. And I'm not just talking about 1. I'm not just talking about 2. I don't even think I'm talking about 3. Honestly, I think it was a little bit more than that. Look, Josh Dobbs doing Josh Dobbs things in San Francisco. Yep. I'm going to show you guys a little video right here. We're going to show this 1 second, not prepared. We're going to show this screen here. Here we go. We're going to share that screen. And then we're going to get it loading right here in just 1 second because, unfortunately, I can't replay the video. And I don't want to show y'all mid-play. So I'm going to wait till it plays. And then we're going to show it right about now. Obviously, he gets the touchdown. But look at this play right here. And I love that he did this in Tennessee because he was on the Titans for all of like 3 games, and then they decided to let him go. And he turns around and, well, I mean, geez, man. Not really smart, but who cares? I mean, the guy understands that his time in the NFL is probably winding down anyways. So why not ball out while he can? And he's doing just that. He understands he's not playing for a starting role. He's playing for, I would think, either locking down that second string position or playing his heart out to hopefully get a team that recognizes him that's maybe down in the dump, or maybe their quarterback gets hurt in the preseason and they need him. Josh Dobbs is doing just that, and he does it in Nashville.
He's already proven that he is capable of being a starter and winning games as a starter in the NFL. He's just not one of those 32 best quarterbacks, I guess you would say, to get a starting role, but he is good enough to be a starter in the NFL.
Jalen Wright getting his first NFL rushing touchdown, making it look easy out there. Jalen Wright, I don't think could have been put in a better position as a draft pick. I'm so happy.
Agree.
I'm so happy with him going to Miami. I mean, a team that's all about speed. Jalen Wright's fast, and he showed that against the Georgia game in that one play. Once again, one highlight of the game. Jalen Hyatt absolutely, I think, could make noise in that offense with Tua. And
Wright, you mean?
Yes. Who did I say?
Jalen Hyatt.
My bad. Yeah, Jalen Wright absolutely deserves to be on that team, and I think he could actually make noise in year one.
But and I don't have the video to pull up, but that wasn't even the most impressive run that he had of the night.
He made one where he went back the other way or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he caught a screen pass and he kind of bobbled a little bit, reverse field when he saw that the defenders were going to have him down, and got a 14-yard gain off of it, and the crowd went nuts.
And I don't have it, but another video, which this is going to be the touchdown. This is not going to be one of those. Obviously, you've probably seen it a lot, but Joe Milton, making noise as he steps up in the pocket as a pro does and delivers a strike for a touchdown. I'm telling you, Joe Milton's pocket presence in the preseason was actually really good. Look at that step up right there. I'm telling you, the guy is, I think, outplaying Drake May. I've heard this several times. Drake May didn't really get an opportunity. I think he played 1 or 2 drives in that preseason game. But he never threw one pass that was legit. Drake May threw a screen pass and a dump pass, and that was his only 2 completions of the game. Maybe they were resting because they want him to be the starter. I don't know, but just eye test, Joe Milton has it. But look, we've talked about this. Joe Milton has always been that guy in practice.
Yep.
He's always been that guy early in the season. Will he be able to do something like this and sustain it through a season and be the starter and actually continue being the starter? We won't know until we see it.
Yeah. Here's my take on it. I think that the Patriots will start Drake May at the beginning of the year, but I think that you will see Joe Milton as a starter by season's end for the Patriots.
Okay. So another sport, same VFL. I don't know why we're wasting time with this guy, but SEMO, by the way, in his first 7 games in professional ball, he's already up to AA, by the way. Another 2-run home run night and a walk-off home run for SEMO. Lighten it up. I know nobody's probably keeping up with this, and that's why we're here to kind of keep you guys up to date. SEMO is, look at this comment. Look at the bio. This man is not real. It's insane. In 3 games with the Trash Pandas, he's hitting over 460 average with 3 home runs and 4 RBIs. He's having better stats in pro ball than he had at Tennessee, and I never thought I would say that.
Yeah, and I've tried to see about getting some tickets to a Trash Pandas game, but unfortunately, the minor league baseball schedule lines up right with my work schedule, so I can't get down there to watch a game. But I would love to, because it's just an hour drive for me to get to Huntsville. So it would be awesome to go down there and watch him before he gets moved up to the pros, which will happen sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, it will. Another player I want to talk about, Hendon Hooker, got his first snaps in NFL preseason as well. Once again, kind of like Josh Dobbs, wasn't too smart about it, but he laid the wood to a linebacker, ran him completely over. I don't have the video on stream, but love to see him play, get some snaps under his belt, and I do think he commanded the offense very well. He moved the ball, and then that's something Detroit Lions wasn't doing too well in their game, But Hendon Hooker found a way, even if it meant lowering the boom, and he did it. And I think it was cool to see from him coming off injury. Obviously, he's not played a snap in 2 years, but it was kind of cool to see him get some time, and it was very, very refreshing to see him wearing the number 2, which was what he was wearing at Virginia Tech before he transferred. But either way, several more Vols playing last week and making some noise in the first week of preseason.
Yeah, and a couple other bits of news. So Tennessee last Monday picked up a commitment from 4-star tight end Carson Sneed. He is 6'6", 235 pounds, out of Nashville, and he chose Tennessee over Ohio State, Auburn, and Ole Miss. This is a 2026 commit, so already that class is doing some big things with Fajon Brandon. Then you get Carson Sneed. I think there's a couple of others that are getting ready to set commitment dates as well. And I apologize for this. I thought that David Sanders was going to commit this past weekend. It is actually this Saturday, the 17th, that we will have the David Sanders commitment coming out. So
I think I did the same thing. I thought it was just next Saturday. I think that's how he said it. And but yeah, it is the 17th. We've been crystal balled.
yes.
I think we're in the lead in this one, guys. I think it may not even be like a show. Like, it may be expected that he comes to Tennessee. Now, I'm never going to say that because at the end of the day, it's his decision.
Yeah.
But, guys, it looks like we are the team to beat in this recruitment. And I'm telling you, if we land this guy, I think that guarantees us a top 5 class. Consensus.
I think you might be right.
I think it could be consensus. I'm talking across the board having a top 5 class. We need it. We need multiple 5-stars in the boat. And I think this would be the second or third 5-star we'd have in the class. It should be the third. I think it ended up being the second because George McIntyre ended up falling in the rankings a little bit. But either way, at the time of recruitment, would be the third one in the class. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah. Also, Karen Weekly was given a contract extension this past week through the year 2029.
Do you agree with this move?
I do.
Because we ain't seen a ball minute played of basketball. I mean, we've not seen the ball bounce, and she's no, Karen Weekly.
No. Yeah,
No. I was sorry, Karen, Kim Caldwell. My bad. That's on me. Yeah, Karen. Yeah, okay. I 100% agree with this. Yeah, she had to revamp the coaching staff there too because she lost some of her assistants. So I wonder if the moves that she made impressed Danny White a little bit and decided to extend that contract. Yeah, my bad. That's on me. I confused. Too many Karens, cars, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. But also, talking about Lady Vols Hoops, they hosted Brianna Crittenden, I think is how you say her name. She's a very, very highly sought after, looks like a post player forward for the 2026 class, if I'm not mistaken. Seeing some of her highlights, she can light it up from downtown. She's also very good down low, very physical. So that was big for the Lady Vols getting to host her. Not sure what the commitment date is on that yet.
Right on. We are 20 days till kickoff, brother.
We are. And I do want to show this real quick because Elijah Simmons last year swapped over to number 10.
This
and I just
such a big dude.
I just want to show you guys this right here. 6'2", 345-pound Elijah Simmons stuffed into a number 10 jersey. That is awesome right there.
I love seeing a big boy wearing a small number. It is.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Now, I will say this. He did not have the season he wanted to have last year. He would tell you that face to face. I'm ready to see this man take over the middle of that line. I mean, him along with Big O, Amari Thomas.
Big Amari Thomas.
Omar Norman Lott. I mean, look, this defensive line has some special potential. And I love for it to come together. Elijah Simmons, I think, made the switch number 10, and I don't know how he said it, if it was like good 10 or bad 10, or I need to play like the other number. However he said it, in my mind, I kept picturing it as that like Ramel Keaton when he swapped to number 9. I'm not going to say it was trash, but like in all intents and purposes, as a fan, I can say this. He didn't play good at all in the number 9. Like, we were all wanting him to swap back to number 80. But Elijah Simmons, man, what a big man. A whole unit is what I'm seeing from that number 10 right there. And I hope he wreaks havoc on opposing offensive lines.
Yeah, and we're talking about switching numbers. We didn't even mention one of them. Squirrel White is no longer number 10. He is number 3.
Doing it for Dale, baby.
Yeah. So do have a comment here from Robert. Next week, we will be doing Georgia. Missouri. And the plan is also to do Missouri. We'll do Missouri regardless, but the plan is to actually have Skeeter from the Woodswater Mizzou podcast on with us next week for the Missouri preview. And Skylar, next week, we're swapping over to the defensive side of the ball. We're hitting defensive line preview for next week.
Well, you already got the big one.
Yeah.
Simmons. Yeah, whole unit, So, but actually, we've got about 7 more like him. So y'all be tuned in. We'll talk all about it, and it's gonna be fun. I'll be back from vacation, ready to hit it hard, and at that point, we would only be 13 days from kickoff at the next show.
So I do have a question for you for next week.
What's up?
So next week when we do the show, week 0 games will follow that Saturday.
Oh, we starting the predictions, bro.
I was going to ask you if you wanted to do week 0 predictions.
No, are there any SEC teams in the week 0s?
There is not.
So then no, we shouldn't start it.
Okay.
Unless you want to do one pick and it'd be like upset of the week pick.
We'll talk about it and see.
This will be off air. Sorry.
Yeah,
We're live.
I haven't looked at the full slate of games, but I do know there is no SEC teams. Matter of fact, I think the biggest one of the weekend, you've got Florida State against Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland. I mean, not really do anything for me.
It's not. I mean, it's a game. It's football.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be tuned into it.
I'll probably stick to watching high school that week, honestly.
Hey, that is another thing. Is high school football? Is it starting?
I don't think it's next week. I think it's next week. I think it's the second Friday from the end of the month. So I think it's like the 23rd, 22nd.
I think you're right. I think the 23rd because the 24th would be the week 0 games. So yeah, a lot of high schools getting
back when I played in high school. High school started a week before college. College started a week before NFL.
Yep.
I believe that's how it worked. High school maybe 2 weeks before college or like a week and a half technically. I don't know how to explain it. To where high school would play 2 games. I think that's actually how it is. High school would technically play. Yeah, so it'd be the week of the 23rd then because they would have 2 games in the bag before college starts their first game. But either way, for all intents and purposes, high school would start a week before college. College would start a week before NFL. That's how it worked. I thought it was kind of cool to it was easier to remember it that way. But again, you have some high schools doing that whole week 0 thing and just starting a little bit earlier. So just be, listen to local radio stations. We have a couple big rivalries right here in week 1 in high school. I know West has a big one. Anderson County, I believe, plays a pretty big one. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open.
Yeah. So one thing that we'll try to do.
Here we go. I knew that was going to get brought up.
Oh, here we go.
I think next week should be a college football 25 showdown, and I think I agree with her. And I think we need to figure out a day of the week to do it. Should it be Wednesday night?
Wednesday night probably wouldn't work just because of my work schedule, but we'll talk about it a little bit and see if we can't work something out with that.
We'll figure it out. It doesn't need to be the same day of the show, but we will absolutely figure out how we need to wire up the Xbox to make sure we can stream this thing.
Yeah. So I'm glad that Catherine brought this up right here because I did a poll on Twitter earlier this week. Skylar asked the question. I also put it on Facebook. Do you want to see college football 25 content also on the channel? It would be.
You don't want to get beat on the stick, brother. I'm all right. No.
Yeah, it would be separate from our normal podcast stuff, but it was a resounding yes. So absolutely, we're gonna do some me versus Skylar stuff on there, but also. What other content do you guys want to see? Do you want to see maybe some Road to Glory, maybe some Ultimate Team, maybe even Dynasty? What are you guys interested in seeing on the channel?
It's just head to head, brother. Like it's who's better than who.
Head to head. Okay.
Come on. Like everybody else can play Dynasty. I mean, I'm just saying. Look, if we have some loyal people that like to donate or whatever to the chat. Just saying, we might could work out a deal to where we could do some viewer games. I don't know. Look, I'm just saying there's endless possibilities with this idea, and I'm really excited about it. But first things first, I got to show the people who's better at the game. It's not me, but I just want to show them. But Anyways, thank you, Catherine, for bringing that back up.
You might be better.
I love how my wife, who hates me playing that game in our bedroom, brings up that question. I love you, babe. All right.
Yeah.
8 people in the YouTube chat. We only got to 5 likes. Was really hoping to get to 10, guys. If y'all haven't liked that video, please do it for us. If you're listening on podcast after the fact, thank you guys so much. We hope that we helped your commute to work or to the gym or whatever it may be a little bit easier this week. As always, we appreciate you. We're working numbers. We're getting close to the football season. Guys, we already hit over 300 subs in our first year of this podcast, and couldn't be more thankful for that. Thank you guys for tuning in. We had so many viewers in the chat box today that made it so much easier to do the show. Robert says, have a great week, fellas. See you next Sunday. I think that's all I got to say, brother. Mike, You got anything in closing?
No, I can't say it any better than that right there. So, guys, like Robert said, have a great week. Go Big Orange, guys.
I'm a ball for life, y'all. I bleed orange and white, y'all. I will till I die, y'all. I'm a ball for life, yeah. Raised up on John Ward, giving 6 in the checkerboard till I'm gone.